At this time, I'd like to open the October 2nd meeting of the Carver Conservation Commission with our initial orders of business being appointments and discussions. Michael Doyle, student interested in environmental affairs.
He asked to come to the next meeting.
Yeah, okay, next.
Yep, he couldn't make it to this one.
Okay.
That takes care of
What's he
that.
think he is, a busy adult?
Yeah, he said he was only a teacher.
Okay. Next thing, discussions on the bylaws.
Can we hold that till the next meeting, given the fact that we have an audience tonight, Mr. Chairman?
We could.
I'd like to forward it to the next meeting.
We probably could have a separate meeting on that anyway.
Yeah,
Do you
probably not a
want to
bad
do that?
idea.
Have like a separate meeting on just
I think
that?
we should.
Okay.
All right. We'll do that.
Okay, so we'll move that to the next meeting.
All right.
Very good.
We're going through this real fast tonight, folks.
Okay. To October 16th there.
Well, Pine Ridge requested to come to the next meeting.
Okay,
yeah.
so
This is going good.
this is going good, yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, activities at 22 Lakeview Street. Rebecca Benny.
Present.
You may come up.
Okay, you want to come up? Sign in on the clipboard, please, Ms. Benny.
There's no microphone. Do
There's two that on the.
There's two, they're right there.
you want a microphone?
I think everyone will be able to.
We'll give you one. We'll give you one anyway.
Okay.
I think yeah,
Thank you.
You will.
somebody else might need one.
Okay, so what's our?
So this was, we had a complaint that a fence had been built
Yep, right.
near the pond, and we went out and looked at it, and there was a fence and some compost piles. So we, in response to the complaint, we, like I say, we went out, and then we asked Rebecca to come in and just talk to us.
Okay. Ms. Benny.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say to the committee that I received a letter that was sent out on September 23rd. That's why I was not at the September 18th meeting. In August, I spoke with Brooke regarding an application for a permit at 22 Lakeview Street. I was explaining proposed changes that my husband and I would like to make to the property. One of the requests was a permanent fence. I have read the complaint filed by Jeffrey Merritt and Joe Bazzanotti at 14 Andrews Point Road. There are many false statements in his complaint. At this time, I would like the committee's permission to go through his complaint and identify those false statements.
We need this in writing when you're done.
Okay. Just so happen to have it. He begins with attempts to privately solve this matter with the Bennies have not produced any solution. There has been no private conversation between the Bennies and the Merritts regarding the compost heaps or a variety of other issues. I would suggest that the committee members review the Zoning Board of Appeals meetings. There were several meetings in regards to the building permit at 14 Andrews Point Road. At each and every meeting, Chairman Gray would ask Mr. Merritt to please go talk to your neighbors and resolve this issue. My next point is the piles of waste. These are compost bins. They're not piles of waste. Compost bins. This material is recycled into my garden, producing vegetables for my family and over 25 local families. This garden has been in existence for over 50 years. I gardened in this garden with my father. Many years he had a right-of-way with the neighbor to bring his cow manure in by truck once a year through Andrews Point Road. When my father passed away, my husband and I, Mark, went over to ask the Merritts if we could continue this right-of-way. They declined. At this point, we put in our compost bins. Like I said, it's all natural. It is leaves, it's grass clippings, it is vegetables, vegetation from my garden, vegetables from the property. I don't believe there is anything in there that would lead to any sicknesses or health concerns. In terms of his sentence on the orange spite fence was installed as retaliation to the unfavorable decision on the appeal the Bennies filed with the ZBA about the building permit we were issued. This fence was installed right on the property line without consultation from us and is now leaning over into our property, creating an aerial trespass. This orange fence, people, it was installed, yes, it is a temporary fence, it is a construction fence. When the Merritts received their building permit, the committee has been to this lot. It is a very, very small lot. Our concerns were for the construction vehicles, the construction materials, the construction workers. Where were they all going to be? As I stated earlier, I had spoke to Brooke in August about coming in for a permit. We have, I believe, 4 items that we would like to request permission from the committee. Once again, one of those would be a fence. They now say that they are concerned that there is waste leaking through. Once again, I say, this is compost bins. The Merritts, I believe, have lived here for 10 or 11 years. Carver's a right-to-farm community. They note that they would like to enjoy their peace and quiet and their outdoors. I, too, would like to enjoy my peace and quiet outdoors as well. I'm sorry the Merritts do not share my love of gardening and farming, but I do believe that, like I stated, it's a temporary construction fence to keep their construction workers off, and the compost bins are all natural. They recycle into my garden. That compost, it goes right back into my garden.
Did you come with us when we went? No.
Is it within 100 feet of the?
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It seems quite, from your statements, it seems quite plausible and should be allowed. However, I haven't seen it, so I will try and...
I welcome the committee to come down. Like I said, we will be having, interested in pulling a permit, so I'm sure the committee will down there to check on the request for the permit.
Well, and one of the reasons that we wanted Rebecca to come in, because it was, an activity, but the
Yes.
fence went up and she didn't have a permit. But I had spoken to her, then she was going to come in, with a notice of intent to do so, but she just hadn't. And then that got put up and we got the complaint, so,
Well, she shouldn't really need a permit for the fence.
It's within 6,500 feet.
I don't
Of the
think,
pond.
I mean, even if it's a temporary fence, it's an activity.
Well, and
If I recall, because I was with you, there's a temporary fence and a permanent wire fence. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a wire fence with an orange plastic coating to denote construction fence.
Yes, for the compost.
But it's
Yeah.
not 2 separate fences.
No, it is not.
No. The one fence holds like the compost.
It is 2 separate. They're laid on top of each other. There's a gallery fence with 3x4 mesh, then there's the construction orange fence in back of that.
I don't think you can have an activity within 65 feet, especially of a compost pile, according to 310 CMR. You can't have an activity like that
It
within
doesn't...
100
actually,
feet of a wetlands or BBW. You can't have any
Actually,
activity. Not
it
without
is
a-
nothing to be done that's permanent and dug into the ground and so on, but things on the surface are usually allowed. For instance, one can put out picnic tables, chairs, etc.
It's like cutting grass down within 100 feet. You're not, it's like, we just finished with a logger telling him he couldn't cut along the riverfront and because it was an activity. This is an activity.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out.
Well,
And
we
she
we didn't
should
tell
follow.
him he couldn't cut within 100 feet.
We told him he couldn't cut his
So,
land
couldn't
within
have a
100 feet.
business.
He clear cut.
Yes, but he was trying to do a
That's what I'm
business.
talking about.
Yeah, well, he
That's all I'm
clear
talking
cut,
about.
right, but Grass, I think, is quite a bit different than.
Well,
brush.
grass, yes, but I'm thinking of everything else.
And the fact is that.
And it's not the activity of the garden or the grass cutting, it's everything put together into a pile.
Yeah, well,
And-
that fellow pretty well obliterated the neighbors.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
privacy of their lands.
I agree with you. I'm just stating these things.
Yeah, but it's
Uh,
business.
The picture I saw was mostly all grass clippings. Now, I'd love to go out there and look at it myself. to
It's
tell you the-
vegetables and it's garden.
Yeah, I didn't,
stuff, yeah,
It's a compost
right.
How
bin.
far from the water is it?
65 feet,
Without-
40 feet?
40 feet,
Yeah.
and it drains into the water,
Yeah, it's on a slope going down to the
down to
water.
the water.
I have never seen any drainage going into the pond, and I am down there.
It's like you never see,
It's hard for
you
me
never
to
see
believe that
sewage
there's a
draining
serious
into it,
problem
it
from
goes underground.
compost decomposing and some drainage coming out of it. It's all that's pretty natural.
Yeah, but when it comes out like that, it's not exactly natural.
Maybe you think differently when you see it, Mr. Chairman.
I believe that the Mass Wetlands law allows fences as long as they allow the free movement of small animals.
Right.
And a
Well,
3x4 fence that is packed to the sides with
You can't move.
compost no longer allows anything to go through it.
There
So
are
we had a
people-
gentleman in North Carver who wanted to put a
Right.
fence up, and we made him
And we
put,
made him
I
put
think,
it
6
high,
by
yeah.
8 or even longer,
Yeah.
larger squares,
Yeah.
open for
They have
free.
a thing called critter fences. You put the large
Yeah.
openings at the bottom and the small
But you
ones
can't
at the
put
top.
something on the
No,
other
you
side
can't,
of it
you
to block
can't.
those holes.
I agree.
Like I said, this is temporary. It was being put up temporary. Once the permanent fence goes in, there will be much different bins associated with that.
It isn't the fence, ma'am, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the compost against the fence, so nobody can get through the fence.
Well, when the permanent fence goes up, I will make sure there is ample room between the fence and the new compost bins.
Yeah, the compost bins probably should be with, say, 4 or 5 feet within your property, a margin on them, just like you would have anything else like bushes or so on and so forth.
Oh, you mean not be right on
Set
the
back
line,
off
you
the
mean?
fence.
Yeah, set back off the property
I
line.
think that's a fair thing.
So you.
5
so-
feet off the fence line.
I only own a 25-foot strip to the beach, so that's why, if I took 5,
Take 5 feet back, ma'am. We're not,
that would be fine.
So she could, so they are gonna file a notice of intent for a permanent fence and for the
Retaining
replacement of
wall.
their retaining wall, and so they could include that,
in that NOI, she has to keep everything 5 feet off the fence.
right?
But putting a bin, an actual bin, that becomes altering,
It does, you're right.
and you can't alter within 100 feet.
Well, then I won't put it in a bin, I can just lay the compost on the ground.
I don't think a
I
compost
don't
bin would
agree
be
with
considered an altering.
It is
A
altering.
shed would be altering, a garage would be altering, but a compost bin, and which is basically a very temporary stockade to hold the compost, I don't see that as a
I don't agree.
Does the compost, do you move the compost?
Actually, the compost pile
Would you
itself
just
is
leave it-
all.
No, the compost, it takes about a year to 2 years, and so what we do is we have 2 separate bins.
Yeah, and
Okay?
then you turn it over.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so if it's not done and it's not put back into the garden the next season, then we use the next set of bins, okay? Because like I say, the leaves start in the fall, and then you have your garden materials and your grass, and
Right.
We need to
I've
know.
done that.
Sir,
for
keeping it 5 feet off the fence, would that be acceptable?
I still really have the concern.
Could you come in and sign in, please? We can get this thing
Yes,
straight.
actually, yeah, we will hear from you, actually.
So Jeff Merritt, 14 Indians Point Road. Sorry, guys.
So he opens his mouth. Sorry.
It's okay, we should. Mr. Hart, please sit down until we're through with.
Yep, sorry.
So.
So she could address this all in the notice of intent.
Okay.
Yeah, but
That's
we
what I
should
would say.
take a look at it. I haven't seen.
And
it.
then, we'll go out again. We'll go do another site visit. How's that?
Okay, so we will, you'll formulate this notice of intent with help from Brooke.
Yeah.
Ideally.
They give it the
And then,
forms and stuff.
We'll take a look at it and see, maybe there will have to have some changes made in it, so.
Okay, and if
Gonna go-
we can put that in our notice
Yeah.
of intent,
Yeah.
what the commission feels would be appropriate.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, thanks. Do you have anything else at the moment?
I do not, sir.
Okay, fine. If you would, let's hear from the gentleman from 14 here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So,
Where's the signing of the board?
I did
He
say-
signed
He's
it.
already signed it.
Oh,
yeah. So I think still, part of the issue is just the smell associated with the compost piles. There are a lot of them. I mean, we were pretty good friends with her dad. He was a great guy. And he would come up, the most he would ever pile up there was wood chips. And, come in with maybe 10 yards of wood chips, maybe every other year. And he would lay those down on that same 25-foot strip that Becky was talking about. And that would keep the weeds down a little bit. But there was never any composting. We've got pictures going back to show with dates and everything, that there was nothing there. I guess my concern is that still that stuff being piled, within the 100-foot of, Sampson Pond, and when you have decaying vegetation, whatever it is going to produce some type of fertilizer that's going to go ultimately into the pond, and that becomes a problem in and of itself. So that's my 2 cents at it. I think the other thing is, if the fence that they installed, clearly on November 4th, there was nothing there. We got a building permit on November 7th. November 11th, the fence starts showing up and all of that. If they're really planning on putting in a fence and they need to file a notice of intent and all of those pieces, that's fine, go through that process. Like, I ended up going through that, right? But right now, I think maybe we just stop where we are and just say, okay, look, stop the piling right now until we get to the bottom of it, figure out where it goes at that point. So I think I still have issues with the whole thing where it's going, both on my side of it, personal side of it, and for the pond itself. So.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one question?
Yeah.
Sir, where did you pile it, if it wasn't there before with her dad, where did he pile that compost before that?
Yeah, so I'll even go one step forward for you. So when Mark and Becky first started piling the compost, it was outside the 100-foot. It was probably about 165, 170 feet, maybe away from the pond.
Well, they have room for that out there?
They do. And then, so that's where it sat. And then we went and spoke to them and said, hey, even that far away, it was a smell. And so at that point, everything was pretty cordial. And the only thing we said, do you mind moving that? Is there anything you could do with it? And ultimately, all that turned into was moving closer to the house. And so it's like, all right, well,
So they have
What
room
can I
outside
say?
the 100-foot?
Well, we'll see that on the site.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. So if I could ask, just the piece, I mean, if we leave tonight, and I understand that people want to be clearer about what it is, what it looks like, and all of those things, I get it. But if we could just stop the piling right now until some kind of determination is made, then I think that's a step forward. That's what I'd be thinking.
This also may involve the health department if it's, the smell is becoming a problem.
Yep,
You did talk to Kevin.
we did.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think that I hate these neighborly things. I don't like them when they
We
come
both.
before the board, because there's a winner, there's a loser, and you can't make everybody happy. And I would like to see, I got to agree, until an NOI is filed, until this commission rules, I'd like to see you not do any more with the compost pile until that comes into effect.
I would like to address the committee in regards to that. I have a 4,000 square foot garden, which right now is the time that I clean my garden for the winter. If I am not allowed to put that vegetation in the compost, I will not have any place to put it, which means I'll not be able to rototill my garden and put the cover crop and be ready for next spring.
I thought she had enough area to keep it outside the 100-foot.
Yes, I do have 2 compost bins, I do. But see, what I'm trying to do is keep the compost that I know for 1 year is here. If I start another compost bin and that gets full, you don't know how long that's been in there. So I cycle it through by season.
You can't keep them side by each?
I have some, like Jeff said, at 165 feet. And then there is Andrews Point Road, and then we have more over here next to.
We're going to have an engineering diagram.
Well, you're going to have to take a look at this.
Yeah.
We will take a
We're
look.
going over there.
We comprehend it now.
Can she get this on for the next meeting? Can she get the NOA file and get it on for the
Not,
next meeting?
no.
I don't feel, I don't
Yeah.
feel she should be dropping stuff over there now.
I think that maybe it's appropriate at this time to put a damper on the activities. If you're going to put compost into the garden now, put the ripest stuff that's most ready to be used, turned in. Use that, but otherwise don't move other amounts in, because we have to resolve this.
I think you're saying it's the other way. You're cleaning out the garden now to
Right.
create a compost pile, correct?
Yes, that is.
Yes, so I think
You're not,
that,
not
Unless
adding
you can
compost
do
in.
Find another place to put
No.
the compost.
yes, at this point,
Compost in the bins currently, but like I said, I have a 4,000 square foot garden that needs to be cleaned out of the vegetation for the winter, which I would put in the compost bin and say, okay, that's my year of compost bins.
You gotta put it outside the 100-foot minimum.
Yeah.
Unless you
I'm sorry.
put the newest stuff outside.
You gotta put it outside
Yes.
the
they
100-foot.
put the new stuff outside the home.
Until there's a
Until there's a determination.
Approval, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, and, right, we might find that it all has to go outside the 100-foot if it's
It's
a,
the best we can do for you, I think, is to
Thank
keep
you.
it outside the 100
Got it.
until this committee makes a determination for
so
it.
we get down there and visit it, take a look at it.
Right, that's
When
all
you-
we can do, because
If you want, I can meet you out there. It's easier to actually get to it from my driveway from that side, so just talk to Brooke when you guys want to go, or if you want to do it by yourself, either way, it's fine with
we
me.
have to take measuring tapes.
Yeah, I'll bring the 150 foot.
Very good.
I'd like to-
Thank you.
I would also like to be notified of
Okay.
the committee visit.
Yeah.
We'd like you to be there.
Definitely, yep.
Thank you.
Yep,
May I ask when the next meeting is?
the 16th.
16th of October.
16th?
Yeah.
Okay,
2 weeks.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Okay.
The reason I had made the statement, when can we get you on, is because if you file an NOI, it still has to go through the cycle of being advertised.
And I don't think you're probably not ready with plans for the,
No, that is my next step, is to contact the engineer.
Right.
To have the proposed changes put on the plot plan.
Yeah.
Once I have that in my hand, I will come to you and.
Then you
we'll be
probably
ready
can get
to
on
proceed.
for the meeting after the
Yeah.
next one.
yeah,
Because the restriction becomes the
The
public
newspaper.
notice.
Okay,
yeah,
It has to be in a newspaper.
yeah. Yeah, you've been through it before.
yes,
Okay, thank you,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
thank you.
Next item is the Creambrook Restaurant update.
Alrighty. Hello.
Somebody asked today why you guys weren't open, and somebody else said you open at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we do, actually. We are open 7 days a week,
So they
and,
quieted the rumor that you'd gone out of business.
yeah,
So you don't do lunch?
we tried it.
Oh, yeah,
For on the Saturday, and I don't think there's a demand for it,
Oh, yeah.
but the
Maybe not
brunch
that.
does well,
Yeah.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
I actually have a letter that indicates that there is an actual plan to file the notice of intent by next Friday.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, actually, and then also in the letter from actually the professional civil engineers that we hired, has included the existing condition survey.
Yeah.
So I would like to just provide a copy of that.
Yes, if you remember the last time with that was one, the engineer came to the last meeting, and then he said he needed more time to get the people
Yeah.
to come out and survey, show the buffer zones, all that kind of stuff, so that's what we were waiting for, but,
I mean, in fact,
Take a while.
there's an apology by the civil engineer firm that we hired, apologizing to both us for the delay as
Yeah.
well as, the committee. So,
Okay.
may I provide this
Yeah.
for the record? Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
And then also, I mean, obviously, to the process of the notice of intent, there's the publication and noticing the abutters, so we do have the list, and that's going to be mailed tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Deb told me you came in to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where we at.
So probably by the time,
nothing
so if they file by Friday, it would be on, wouldn't make it for the 16th.
It would be the following Friday.
It would be-
Not by this
yeah.
Friday, by next
So it would
Friday.
get on for the first one in November.
November 6th.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we
So let's
can-
make sure that we stick to that timetable
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
to make sure that the NOI is ready.
yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like he's got pretty much
Right,
everything
right.
done, yeah.
I mean, he had to lay some
Yeah.
internal, whatever,
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. All righty.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
And now, number 4D Shaw Road. Linda Scolio. Is she
Yeah,
there?
Marcallo. Maria Mark.
And Brooke, what's the echo?
Okay, this was Shaw Road.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I know.
We went, the
Digging into the bank and all that.
unit that, where the beach had been created, that we went by, and she cut the shrubs. So Linda came in,
The bank and the trees.
and, you know, and just
This is the same.
wasn't really sure why she should come in. She, yeah, because, well, anyway, I'll let
Thank
Linda
you.
explain. Okay.
Oh, well, I got a call that, from a neighbor that you guys came out. I didn't get a letter, I got no information,
Right.
but, so I went by, I left work early, I went by,
And-
Brooke was there, and I asked her what was going on, and said, my neighbor said something about building a new deck. I didn't build a new deck, I cleaned the deck. Didn't use any chemicals in the water. When I did it, I used a sprayer, power washer. But I know not to use any chemicals, so I just cleaned the deck. I had mowed the lawn, we did some weed whacking. I did notice when we were doing all that, that a tree had been cut down, but it's not anything I had done. I don't know when that was done. I had people renting before me, so it wasn't a big tree, but I did see it, and I was like, I don't know when that came down. But they
There was
were
some
where they
shrubs, I
were.
think, on the bank, remember?
Yes.
Shrubs on the
Yes.
bank, yeah.
Yes, what happened with the shrubs on the bank as well is we were cleaning up and, just doing some pruning and things like that. My neighbor behind us is also, he's like a tree cutter, so he's been cleaning up the property, and he's been using that beach, and he brought a bunch of stuff down as well, thinking he could burn down there. So I told him I would find out if that's something we can do or not, but I didn't know, so I just kind of,
Because we
We
did
did
allow, some tree cutting out there, remember, because there
It's all
was trees
cuttings
right,
over
that
here.
right near the power lines and stuff. But
Yes.
then I
That
think
was all
it had to go
about-
through association, so we weren't sure if it,
Stumps there.
everybody agreed to it, so we weren't really sure if it,
yeah, he moved in like in
Officially gonna
April,
get
and that's
that.
what he does for a living, so he offered to do
Yeah.
that for the complex, not from my property. He didn't touch my property, he was behind doing the
oh,
other stuff.
behind, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
that, I
what
know that a
somebody
lot of
did.
that stuff he brought down there to burn, because he likes to burn.
Yeah.
So I don't know even that I should be doing that. But I did mow the lawn, I did weed whack, I cleaned up the whole place, because I am selling the house, so I just came in after the renters left and just cleaned up
He might be able to burn it after December.
after December.
Yeah, it's the December to, usually the end of March is the burning period.
The end of March?
Department feels it's safe to.
Okay. And do you have to get a permit for that, or just call them?
Like a rug.
Well, you have to go and,
This is all
to
cut.
stop at the fire station
all
and
cut.
give them your address and say, and then you give them a call the day you actually are going to burn.
Oh, okay.
So they know, and they don't have the engines tearing down there.
Or you give-
Right, okay.
But,
you- I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
sir.
No, go ahead.
Did you happen to notice that the shrubs in front going down the bank were all cut? Did you happen to notice that?
The shrubs?
Yeah, I got photographs.
Saplings, 3 to 4 inch diameter saplings on the slope between your deck and the water.
I got all the photographs right here.
Yeah, some saplings, yes.
They're all
It was
cut.
all clear
I got
cut.
4 inches cut.
Yeah. It was pretty much all clear cut, and that's within 65 feet of the pond, and nothing can be touched there.
You can't
You can't.
prune?
No, you cannot. You can do what's called vista pruning, which is taking 10% of the canopy. Everything underneath that, called understory, has to remain and cannot be touched.
And
This
it's all
is to
cut.
And that's
protect the banks
state law.
from erosion.
That's
Okay.
state law. That's not Carver bylaw. That is state law.
Okay, so, don't quite understand what you're saying to me, so can you
Well, it
explain that
means
a little bit
no,
better?
there should not have been that cutting,
They got to
Okay.
replant.
and there will not be in the future.
They got to replant.
Did they take the roots up,
He's saying he has pictures or
or
something.
the stalks still?
No, they cut the trees. They just cut the trees.
Yeah, 3 to 4 inch diameter.
Yeah.
3 to
trees. They gotta
4 inch
replant.
diameter.
With the root ball?
Yeah, we have
I
pictures.
got the
We were there.
photographs right here.
We were there. We
I
have the
got them right
photos.
here.
I see them now.
Is that the one tree you're talking
No,
about?
There's another
there
one.
were many trees.
Can I see the pictures? Because I
There's
have no
another
idea what
one.
you're talking
All
about.
of the branches and trees were piled on the...
Well, the branches are from other places in the complex. They're
I'm
not
sorry.
from down there.
I'm sorry, you got to replant.
We were...
I'm sorry?
You got to
He-
replant. I got all the photographs.
Tim has all the photos.
Okay, I'd like to see what you're talking about, to be honest
In
with you.
addition, wasn't there also an area where the bank had been sort of chewed away?
No.
That's,
That was-
that's,
that was the other
one.
Pine Ridge?
dollar,
That was the other side.
dollar up. Hey, wake up,
I
buddy.
know, they
Too many
started
beavers.
too many violations. Yeah, that was.
Come on.
I mean, the one tree was like that, but I don't know.
Just
Sure.
for the next meeting,
Thank you.
if you get those pictures, yeah.
And ma'am, it doesn't matter if it's a renter does it.
I know we didn't do
It
it,
doesn't matter if it's a renter does it or not, you're still responsible for your own
but
property.
those aren't from my property. That's from behind our property, the other people's property that he was
This is
pruning.
behind your property.
Right there.
She's saying it isn't, Tim.
It's, these cut things out from my
Pictures
property.
Looking right at the house.
Yeah, but
But the ones that were cut are on her.
That's your property.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
the beach.
This is the bank in front of your property.
Yeah.
All the trees that were here, there's stumps all through here. They were all cut down, and that's illegal.
So
We
those-
didn't
so
cut
all
those
the
down.
shrubs-
Somebody did.
she's still.
Not
saying no,
recently.
so wait a minute.
That's
All
not,
the brush was lying on the beach.
Right, but
These were
that's-
fresh cuts. These were fresh
I don't
cuts.
see I don't see anything.
You got some 4 inches in there too.
There, that's a fresh cut.
Oh, that's been
Of a
here for
stump.
20 years. I cleaned it.
That's the piles
Pictures
of
worth
the
a
stuff.
All right, I'll go down and look, because I don't
Okay.
see what, we didn't cut it.
Well,
So I
somebody
don't know
did.
who did.
You can still see the dead leaves right where it was cut. They're still green, but they're drying out along all.
I see that,
Right here.
okay.
These are all leaves that on the side of your slope
Still responsible.
that are in the process of being dried out.
Okay.
That was vista pruning. That's
that little
understory.
stuff
Vista
like
pruning
this.
is the top up high, your 80-foot trees. That's understory, can't be touched.
Right, yeah.
But that's my grass, right, underneath all that? No, that's not, that's way down the bank.
Yes, yes.
I'll go look.
We're standing
'cause I
on the
don't-
water's edge looking
yeah.
at it.
Well, I'd like to see, I'd like to see that, yeah.
And this is.
I don't see anything 3-4 inches. We didn't have any kind of equipment to cut anything that big. I had little honkers.
Ma'am, it doesn't matter who did it, it's your property, you're
Right.
responsible for your property. If your renter did it, then
No,
go
they
after-
haven't been
but-
there.
Okay, then it's your responsibility to have that
Well, who
repaired.
else would benefit from taking those trees down to be able to see the pond for the view?
I don't know. I had honkers. That's all I used. I didn't cut
No,
anything
it
big.
doesn't matter, you're responsible for it, period.
I
Yeah, but like
understand
she
that.
said, some of the limbs came from other properties, not her.
And some of the stuff
The
that
neighbor
was,
did
that had
This is
fallen
all
down
her
over the
property.
winter.
I took a shot right from the
Limbs shouldn't
deck,
have
the
been put
house,
there.
all the way
This is
down.
okay.
Right, I understand that now. And that's why I said we may have to pull that up and put it somewhere else.
Pile it across Shaw Road.
Huh?
Stack it across Shaw Road.
Fell on our neighbor's property.
How many trees did she cut?
I'd say there's got to be, never mind the undergrowth or the other stuff, but the main parts, anywhere from 2 inches to 4 inches, probably 5 or 6
Or more.
or more.
We didn't count the stumps. It's a pretty steep slope. We
Yeah.
saw enough, and
I
Tim
mean, you
took the
could,
photos.
you could take the photographs and look at them all, I mean,
So
they're there.
we're gonna be happy if she puts back 5 trees or
Yeah.
something?
Well, that and put some of the shrubs back, too. I mean, she cleared that all out of there.
Well, I don't think she did anything.
What's a shrub?
What shrub?
It's her
I
property.
understand.
She's
So,
responsible.
I understand that too, but we're accusing her of going out there with a chainsaw.
No,
I don't think she did that.
Somebody did.
no.
It's her house. The only one that gets advantage from that cut is her house.
No, all the houses behind mine get that view. All 4 of the houses behind mine use that view.
Well, just,
It doesn't
So
matter.
If I
I understand what
may-
you're saying. It is my property.
I know.
if I may, just before this escalates any more unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, from our perspective, it's irrelevant
Yeah.
who did it.
Okay.
So we have to, but those stumps need to,
Can somebody come out with me and show me what we're talking about? And I'll
do that.
Absolutely.
And then we can see what,
Why don't you do that?
what you want to.
You gonna do it?
And stuff.
I mean, I'll do it, but she may not like it.
no, one or a couple of us.
That's nice.
We won't leave you alone with him.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've got a very nice person. When it comes to violations, I really have.
I can do it Saturday morning.
Okay.
So what do you think,
we'll-
Jim?
We'll work on that, and
I think she's going to go out and tell her where to plant the trees, right?
I think that's only fair.
And I have to make sure I just tell my neighbors they're not allowed to go down there then.
Right, yeah, one of
It's just I don't
more of us
live there
will give
right
you
now,
some
so
specific
I
guidance
can't-
as to what to replant.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
It's
Yeah,
not
you
a
can go.
problem.
So when is that? Saturday morning?
When do we want to do this?
Replacement.
When would you like to do that?
You guys do it at your convenience. I can do it Saturday morning. Which I know you hate to hear that.
I'm not going to.
I don't know if I can do it.
You retired guys are available, Monday through Friday, but that's a...
Well, yeah.
I'm not.
Are you not available during the week?
Right, no,
This
I
Saturday?
work.
Yeah.
Are you available this Saturday
I
morning?
can be, yeah. Well, my mother's here, but yeah, I'll make it
What about
work.
you, Brooke? I mean, I am. Alan and I can go.
What's this Saturday?
Dan, you available?
I probably
Saturday
could do it
is the-
Saturday.
Day after the day after
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Well, as long as somebody goes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll
All right.
visit this Saturday?
I think
time?
Alan.
10 o'clock.
Saturday.
10, come on, I got stuff to do on a Saturday. Can we do a
Well,
little bit
I
earlier?
don't want, because
Be the 5th,
What, you
right?
want to sleep late?
No,
Or you
yeah,
want
no, I
cocktails?
don't sleep
October
late.
5th, 10 o'clock.
I never sleep
10
late.
o'clock.
10 o'clock.
You guys want to ruin the whole day.
I'm not
It
going.
won't take us long. It's not even going.
I was thinking like 8.
No.
Yeah,
Come on,
playing
it's
at one.
Saturday. You
Be
get up
nice.
early every day. I don't want to get up early on Saturday.
That's what
And
Sundays
take
are.
comp time.
Okay.
All right, October
o'clock
5th, 10
Saturday?
o'clock.
October 5th, 10 o'clock. That's it. Settled, Bob.
Hell, you
Next
don't
item.
have to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CMC request. Lot 9B, Home Street. We looked at it.
We looked at it.
We agreed. It's okay.
It's good.
COC, yeah, that's.
COC. All right, sign
Motion
it.
to pass.
I'll make the motion that we pass, that we approve the COC request for Lot 9B, DEP SE 126-575.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve COC for Home Street, DEP SE 126-575. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimous. Okay, 5 Bisbee Drive. We examined that site for our COC.
We did.
Yes, we had.
And I contacted the woman and said that we were gonna get posts, and I
Right.
didn't hear back from her, but I told her we were gonna issue it tonight. And, that we talked to her about putting up the
Yes,
conservation posts, and, yeah.
And that was the past owner?
No, present owner.
Well, the past owner,
The past owner, the person who contacted you?
right, yes,
Okay.
yeah. Because I think the past owner should be the
person who
one.
needs the COC.
Right, right.
In order to finish.
She should be the one to put the posts up, not the new owner, I think, yeah, you're
Well,
right.
that, and they were going to redirect that back water spout.
I would consider that we might need to have the new owner put them in, simply because the old owner probably is like, I'm done with it. forget
It's
it."
got to, yeah, and it's got to be part of the conditions. We don't, no
Right.
ticky, no shirty.
Right.
So I guess we could, put that in the COC.
Oh, definitely, yeah,
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 okay.
yeah.
Okay, good.
But I got all the new owner's contact information.
What about
too, so-
redirecting that downspout that you wanted? What do you think, Jim? You want to let that go? It's your call.
I would like to have it moved, just so that it deflected and.
Instead of shooting straight back, just goes to the right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
cut down on the erosion in the yard there, which obviously.
That's really-
About a drop of a foot over
it's
it.
exposing all those roots, so.
To deflect the,
So the downspout
Basically,
the
the downspout
downspout.
comes down and shoots straight from the back of the
Go in
house.
the order.
They want to shoot it
Yeah.
off to the right.
Yeah, it's just turn it 90.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put that right in the order.
Yeah, put it in the COC.
All right, cool.
And post. How many posts did you want?
350.
3.
Probably 3.
50 and
50.
3, I like that.
I said 53.
Compromise.
I'm compromising.
Yeah, one on each side, one in the back.
Tough crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the wetlands completely encircles
It
Yeah,
does
it
the
does.
entire
I
yard.
know.
on three sides.
We had fits
It's like a
around,
horseshoe.
tie people to them and.
All right.
Tell your horses up.
Okay,
All right, so we need a motion to approve the COC with the added conditions?
yes, on 5 Bisbee Drive.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the COC request for 5 Bisbee Drive, DEP SE 126-67, with the new conditions indicated in today's meeting.
Yep.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Repost,
Aye.
Any opposed?
redirect.
Pass unanimous?
Done.
Did you sign it right?
Yeah.
Done.
Redirect that.
Skip the
Okay,
minute.
that's good.
Skip the minutes for now.
Gutter
Yeah.
spout. What do you
skip the
call
minutes
it?
for now.
Gutter
We need to
spout?
go to
The
business.
thing that comes down?
Downspout.
Downspout.
All right. So at this point, we're going to go to James Reach Way, right?
Do the minutes at the end.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw. The public hearing will be held at 7:15 PM on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019, in Meeting Room 1 at the Carver Town Hall. Hear the notice of intent submitted by Clean Energy Corporation for the proposed construction of a dual-use 2.0 megawatt AC ground-mounted photovoltaic array. The solar array will be mounted on existing cranberry bogs in conjunction with the active agricultural use of the bogs. The proposed solar array is within the wetland resource area bordering vegetated wetland, bordering land subject to flooding, and riverfront area. The project will require a variance from the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw for the work. The project is located at 5 James Breach Way, Carver, Mass., map 34/map 33, parcel 2, 5, and 9C. Carver, Mass. All interested parties are invited.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. For the record, my name is Joe Shanahan. I'm Vice President of Real Estate and Permitting for Clean Energy Company, the applicant in connection with this notice of intent. As this commission has heard before, as I've been here previously, Clean Energy Company is a 6-year-old company based in Colorado. Over the last 6 years, we have developed renewable energy or solar facilities in 15 states. Total projects now is up around 135 projects. We've teamed with some 35 different utilities. Here in Massachusetts, over the last 4 years, we've built 40-plus projects, including a project on Fuller Street here in Carver that was approved by this commission about 2 years ago. Before I proceed, Mr. Chairman, may I hand Ms. Monroe down the sheets? Some of what I will say in this very brief presentation is redundant for you folks, but for those of you who have not been here previously with regard to a company applicant by our folks, Clean Energy Collective basically permits, develops, operates, and maintains ground-mounted solar facilities. As I said, we're up to about 135 of them nationwide, 40 of them here in Massachusetts. Solar facilities are probably the most passive use that you can have at any site under your use table of uses under the zoning bylaw. We do not generate any traffic once the project is built. We probably have a pickup truck come to the site 3 or 4 times a year to inspect, landscape, and repair anything that needs to be done. We don't put any drain on your local resources, whether they be fire, police, water, or sewer system. We create no hazardous waste or regular waste. We don't light our projects, so there's no illumination or distraction to the public. We try to find sites that are as little visual impact as possible. We do not put children in your school system to put any strain on that system. Those are all the things we don't do. The 2 things we do present to the community is we present what's called community shared solar. We don't sell our production to a utility company. Our production does go through the Eversource grid because the 3-phase system feeds into that. But basically, we have a platform. It's a patented platform that we share with the utilities with whom we work. And community property owners, whether they be residential, commercial, industrial, or municipal, have the right to participate in our projects to reduce their electric bill. I use the analogy often that if you're familiar at all with cooperative or community gardens, people who cannot or choose not to have gardens in their backyard but want fresh vegetables and or produce and are looking for somewhat of a discounted rate in terms of bulk, they might join a cooperative, and one member of that cooperative each week would go off to a local garden stand or whatever, buy in bulk and come back to the neighborhood and distribute those vegetables or the produce. We do exactly the same thing. Those who might otherwise want solar systems on the roofs can't have them either because non-southerly exposure, the roof won't take it, or they just don't like the look of it, they can participate in a off-site community shared solar system and get the same benefits. So we do bring that to the community. The other thing we bring to the community is because solar facilities are somewhat unusual in terms of the taxing base, we are personal property. A municipality cannot tax us like they would a Walgreens or a Dunkin' Donuts because we're not real estate, we're personal property on real estate. We enter upon a pilot agreement with every municipality in which we build a facility that basically provides a guaranteed check to the community in a certain agreed-upon amount every year for the 25-year of our lease. In addition, we always enter upon a decommissioning agreement with the community. Basically, what that is an agreement that if, perchance, for whatever reason, the use is abandoned and we don't remove the equipment from the site, which we would do because it has a great deal of salvage value, but if for some circumstance that did not occur and the landowner/town wanted that facility removed, there would be an insurance policy on file with the town to cover the cost of that removal. So that's basically who we are, what we do, and how we do it. Previous project here in this town, and quite honestly, 90% of the projects we've done up to date have been simple ground-mounted systems 2 or 3 feet off the ground, the ones we're most familiar with. Your town, unlike most, is also familiar with what is now known as the dual-use project. And that dual-use project is basically an agricultural continuance, if you will, under the DEP guidelines that were adopted about a year ago. In fact, I think it was October 2018. In the present case, we're looking at a site at 5 James Breach Way. That site consists of 3 parcels, a total of about 41 acres. About 20-plus acres of that site are active cranberry bogs. We are proposing to build our solar facility, which would consist of about 9 acres, over the active cranberry bogs, and those bogs would continue to be farmed and harvested in the same manner they are now. So that's about 41% of the active cranberry bogs would be utilized for the dual use of the solar facility and the cranberry bogs. So that's basically what we're proposing to do and where we're proposing to do it. I'd like to introduce Richard Tebazinski, who's a professional engineer and our consultant in connection with this project and has done a number of other projects for us from Atlantic Design Engineers up in Sandwich, Mass. And Richard certainly is better able to go through some of the more technical aspects of the project than I, but if anything comes up with regard to the company or the proposal beyond the technical aspects, feel free to ask me after the fact. Thank you very much. And by the way, those in the audience are not aware, I want to thank the Commission and Brooke Monroe for taking the time out of their personal schedules to come out and walk the entire site with us. Spent a great deal of time this morning going over it, and it's unusual to get 4 out of 5 members to take time out of the day to show up. We appreciate it.
Okay, so Richard?
I know some of us have to work for a living.
I'm so sorry.
Well, if you want, Rich Tabazinski with Atlantic Design, I can go through a little bit more, a few more specifics on the project, and we have some presentation boards put together. The first drawing is basically an aerial overview of the site with the proposed solar facility overlaid on top of it, showing some of the riverfront areas and buffer zones on the property. Then there's other boards which are basically just mounted drawings from the site plan set that you have in front of you. But as Joe had mentioned, the total site's 41.4 acres, but the facility itself, including some of the panels that are over the access roads and everything, total just under 11 acres, including, basically that's 11 acres of what would be considered the solar development, including an area right in the center of the site, which will be fenced in for the electrical equipment cabinets.
Are you doing battery storage?
Gracious here. And in accordance with your local, the zoning bylaw, basically, we've situated that as far away from property lines as we could and still meet the setback requirements of the bylaw. So in terms of the resource areas on the site, they were reviewed by Goddard Consulting. Basically, there's bordering vegetated wetlands, which is the bogs themselves. There's some ponds on the site with banks associated with them. And there's a riverfront area and also a small area that's in the flood zone bordering land subject to flooding. Those of all were flagged and identified and field survey located by our company and are shown on your drawings in the appropriate color coding that you request in your requirements, in your regulations.
Those people in the audience, if you wish to have a conversation, please leave the room and go down the hallway, okay? I hear you, and it muffles the conversation, the discussion we're getting from the people appearing here. So if you can't wait to talk, leave the room. Okay, go ahead, please.
Sure. So as you can see on the presentation board, the solar array is separated into two facilities, basically, one on the northern portion of the property, one on the southern portion. And the reason for that is there's a perennial stream that was flagged by Goddard Associates that runs right through the center of the property. Basically, it's one of those drainage channels that are in the middle of the cranberry bogs. But it was identified as a perennial stream that runs from High Street all the way down through the middle of the property to some ponds and eventually into, is it Doughton or Dotton?
Yes.
Dotton Brook, that's on the south end of the site. So we didn't want to propose any work within the inner 100-foot riverfront area, so that's why there's kind of a gap in between all the arrays on the property. But we do have a small amount of work that is within there, and that's basically some utility poles to get the electricity from High Street, the connection from High Street to the panels themselves. But that is basically, de minimis in terms of impacts. It's, I believe, 5 utility poles is all the proposed work and some overhead wiring that's in the inner 100-foot riverfront. In terms of the work that's being proposed within the bogs themselves, as Joe had mentioned, it totals 9 acres of the work that will be within the bogs. And the main impact from a facility like this is basically the posts that support the solar array. Those will likely be driven posts, kind of like a small I-beam channel that will be driven into the soil. And our calculations came up with really just a little under 30 square feet of total impact on the bogs, basically from the channel cross-section itself. There'll also be some temporary impacts where we'll have to do some electrical trenching to connect the different rows of panels and run those all out electrically to the electrical cabinets. That totaled about 765 square feet. But what's going to happen there basically is that trenching will occur, they'll install the underground wiring, and then we'll basically put back the bog substrate just in the exact same location, grade, and cross-section that's already there. So basically, right after the trenching is done, it'll be backfilled and it'll look just like a cranberry bog once it grows back in and with the wiring underneath. So we consider it really just a temporary impact in those areas. So there's basically the calculations, the notice of intent show that there are minimal impacts to the bog and wetland system itself, and we've stayed out of the 100-foot. We have provided some erosion control measures adjacent to some of the bogs and reservoirs on the site where we're not doing any work. Those are shown on your drawings, but really, since we're working in the bogs themselves, which are depressed, there's really no way for that erosion is going to really occur. There's no fill slopes or excavation work that's going to create any sedimentation on the site. In addition, stormwater is very minimal also. We've provided some infiltration trenches around the concrete equipment pads. That's in accordance with the DEP's stormwater policy. But beyond that, we're not changing the ground cover or hydraulics on the site. So that the basic stormwater system that's associated with any cranberry bog, which is a series of drainage channels and flumes and culverts, that's all going to remain the same and is not going to be impacted by the installation of the solar panels. So basically, that's the presentation that I had for you, and I'll just open it up to any questions you might have or that Joe might want to add.
Yeah, in closing, when I mentioned the benefits in terms of the pilot agreement and the community shared solar, those are broad-based, global benefits, if you will. I think the other benefit that this commission is aware of and is a little more individualistic is to the landowner. Up until a year ago, this type of dual use would not have been allowed. I think the DEP changed its posture and issued its guidelines with an eye towards cranberry bogs because it was recognizing the state of the economy with regard to cranberry farmers. Our site is chosen because the owner, Timothy Pink, has an active cranberry business, but it's quite different than it would have been 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And he's basically looking for means by which to maintain his cranberry bogs, but at the same time subsidize them with additional revenue. And that's the benefit that the dual-use agricultural facilities are able to offer. As you may remember, I came here about 9 months ago, shortly after the DEP issued the guidelines, and I came to basically ask you your perspective on those new guidelines. And I think there were several among you that were very candid about it and said, look, given a choice, we just assume you do nothing and no one does anything in a wetland. That's what a wetland is there for. We're here to protect wetlands. But we also acknowledge and recognize the DEP guidelines, and I think the guidance this commission gave me at that time is you have to go out and you have to do everything by the book, cross every T, dot every I, and don't come back for anything less. And that's what we've done over the last 9 months, and I think we've fulfilled that directive or guidance from this Conservation Commission, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
I want to point out that these rows of panels will be different in appearance in that because of the fact that the cranberry activity is going to go on underneath them, the panels are going to be more widely separated and they're also going to be higher. The low edge of the panels will be, what, 8 feet?
8 feet, that's correct.
And the high edge 15 roughly?
13.
Well, it won't be any more than 13 at this location.
3 feet.
Beg your pardon?
Initial presentation was 2 to 3 feet. I didn't hear 11 or 8.
Well, sir, if you had listened to the initial presentation.
I was listening to it.
Eddie, sir.
Okay, sir.
That's it. You're out of order.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The initial presentation indicated that the traditional ground-mounted solar facility panels are 2 to 3 feet off the ground. In this case, because they're dual use, where you maintain, farm, and harvest a cranberry bog, they would be 8 feet above the ground.
Okay, may I ask?
Yeah.
Yes, now,
Civilized question. 8 to 11 feet. You were all there today. I saw most of you. I was up on the...
yes, 8 to 13 feet, he said, actually.
Okay,
So,
whatever those
yes.
numbers are. I heard also that there are going to be a number of, help me here, the things that hold up the panels.
The support posts, those will be underneath the panels.
Okay, how does Tim propose to get his equipment, which you all saw in operation today, under all of those solar panels? How do we make this agricultural industrial?
That's why they are 8 feet off the ground.
It's just talking about the install, I think.
That's not the question, I know what he's asking.
Talking about the install.
The,
Go to the one on next to the elementary school.
Can we use that?
That's not a dual-use setup.
Jim?
No.
yeah, just a minute.
Just-
That is not a dual-use setup. That's the whole thing. That was an experimental setup, the first of its type in Massachusetts, and it was watched and supervised for 4.5 years before it was accepted. It's not perfect. The owner and the DEP are both less than delighted, but it's working, and we've learned since then. But we will have the distance underneath it for machines to operate, and there'll also be spaced more widely apart so that the crops can continue to flourish underneath them. Now, another question?
Can we, wait a minute, can we stop
Yeah,
there?
If we
I
finish
think
our
we
part
should-
of the hearing
yeah.
first, Mr. Chairman.
Let's finish our
Before we get into the name.
Okay. I thought we had finished our part.
No, we hadn't. I hadn't spoken. I don't think Sam
I have a
has
couple
spoken.
things to
Nobody
say.
has said a word about this yet. I got a slew of questions for you. And
Oh, okay, so you have questions. Good.
I do.
Proceed.
What's the distance between these panels? This is awful tight.
Quite honestly, they vary depending on the row.
It looks pretty even to me.
Some of these dual-use solars that we've been shown are 25 feet apart. It doesn't appear that that's going to be the case here.
We had, the spacing laterally is about 8 feet between a row and then another row.
Oh, wait a minute, 8 feet between pilasters or 8 feet between panels?
Rows of panels.
Panels, yeah, if you,
The edge of one panel to the
Yep.
edge of the other panel would be how far apart?
Edge to edge is 8
8
Yeah.
feet. There's basically an 8-foot
Oh, I-
path between the two.
That was further than that.
And between
I- I
the
did-
stanchions?
I,
These going to be movable panels? They're going to be...
No, they're fixed still.
I have a.
The 8-foot separation is a planning board item. It's not us anyway. I just wanted to...
But I do have
disagree,
something that
actually.
responds to
I
us.
disagree. That is not a planning board item. It is something that is supervised by DEP as far as their use of the dual use, the dual use planning.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the real standard you look at in laying out these arrays, Mr. Germain, is it Germain or Germain?
Germain.
Germain, is the DEP requirement and the Department of Energy Resources requirement that we can shade no more than 50% of the bog. So basically, we have to separate the rows and the panels such that the calculations come out to less than 50% shading, which we've done.
Thanks, Joe.
Is that 50% underneath the units or 50% of the total bog?
No, that's 50% under the unit, sir.
Thank you. The other thing I have is on these drawings, I'm looking at them, and you have the abutters' houses located across the street, and I'm having a hard time finding them on this side of the street. Oh, there it is.
And here's the barn.
Okay, so they are
Here's the
within,
barn, and that's the house.
all right, thank you. I'm all set.
I wasn't finished.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sam.
No, finish. You go ahead, Al.
No, go ahead. I'll save mine for the end.
All right. Have you done dual use before?
We've got several projects in the pipeline, but this would be our first dual-use project.
Okay. You had said that the bottom of the panels are going to be 8 feet.
Yep, they're required to be.
Okay, right. Now, is that going to follow the contour, the profile
Yes.
of the land? So
Yes.
it will be a little bit lower on the bog and higher on the road?
Correct.
Okay. Is the bog owner here tonight?
No.
All right.
I talked to him this morning when I was at the site with you. He needed to be here, and I said, he had a full day. I said, you don't have to be here tonight.
Okay, that's fine. Basically, this goes sort of to probably part of your question, and that is the harvesting of the berries. Now, to your question before, this is very closely watched by the state. If they fail to maintain a certain, I believe, a certain amount of
Production, yes.
production, then it goes away. So they're going to have to adapt to figure out how to harvest these berries. working their way through the stanchions. They won't have a problem with the panels because they'll be high enough to get the reelers underneath it, but perhaps navigating around the stanchions would be something that they'll have to deal with. But regular traditional growers have had to deal with ditches forever. They'll figure out a way.
Just to enhance your comment, Mr. Moore, it's a little more punitive than that. Our production is reviewed on an annual basis.
Right.
If it's determined that we're not complying with the dual-use standard, either the DEP and/or the local Conservation Commission and/or the Planning Board can issue a cease and desist order and literally unplug the system until we come back up to where we're supposed to be. And I think from a financial standpoint, you can understand how significantly punitive that would be.
All right, well, the really question that I had, and we talked about it a little bit today on the site visit, was there seemed to be a couple of the current bogs, the smaller ones on your plan that when the solar array is put in, it doesn't allow for access directly from a road to that bog.
You asked that question on site. I am not a cranberry harvester, so I won't pretend to be. I haven't had the chance to speak to Tim Pink about your particular question. I intend to. I will indicate to you that the one bog, if not two, that you questioned me about are relatively small.
Right.
If it was in fact a problem, they'd be hand harvested.
Okay.
Certainly not unknown down here.
Right. Okay, that's all I have.
Kim, anything else? No?
This is
Seems to me that, and I'm a proponent of this, you are absolutely correct. There are no kids living in a solar field. So the impact to the town services is minimal, non-existent actually. I just don't want Carver to become the solar capital of New England. And this is, every time we turn around now, these solar projects are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and now we have a room full of, I assume, abutters that are looking at 8 and 10, 12-foot high solar panels in their backyard, and they're saying it was beautiful when it was a cranberry bog. And I'm not opposed to the solar project. I think that we don't, and contrary to what the chairman's gonna beat me over the head with this, we don't know if this is even gonna work. We don't have any idea. There is no dual use in use in the town of Carver. We don't know what's gonna happen. We thought it was gonna work up the street, and that's pitiful. That didn't work at all. We have another one going in on Rochester Road. We have one going in on Tremont Street eventually.
Huge.
That's in the stages now. That's gonna be dual use. And we don't know what's gonna happen. And I'm not sure what's gonna happen when the investors find out that it didn't work out so well, and rather than take it away and make it like it never happened, just walk away and say, didn't work. Sorry.
Well,
We got a bond, we can collect on the bond to clean it up. The bond will never be enough to do that. You know it, I know it, we all know it.
I would respectfully disagree, sir, but go
I
ahead.
have concerns about, maybe this is like a speeding train. It's just too much, too fast, and I'm not on the planning board. I obviously can't vote no if it conforms to the wetland requirements. This is just a personal observation, and you know.
As of right now, it doesn't conform. May I speak?
Go ahead.
Sure, thank you. On the visit this morning, as you noted, and you turned around, went over and spoke with this gentleman, I don't see, and this is our responsibility, not the planning board's responsibility, and that is the barrier between the bogs and the house. We have no details on how you're gonna do it, what's gonna go there. That I'm gonna want.
What do you mean, Tim?
Well, there's a house that literally, you're supposed to have a barrier.
We don't deal with screening.
I beg your pardon?
We don't deal with screening.
Listen to what I'm saying. It's within the buffer zone that they have to put this up, so it is ours. So,
You're like a silk fence.
I want a detail on that. I want to see what it is.
Yeah, if I can clarify, Mr.
And I'm gonna go ask for a continuance at this point. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask for a continuance at this point because I do not feel that these plans are complete.
May I respond before we go to a continuance, Mr. Dempsey? I didn't expect to vote tonight.
We're not
Well,
going to
I'm going to go for a continuance just in case.
I don't think that that's conservation issue.
It absolutely is. It's within 200 feet of the...
May I respond? With all due respect, Mr. Jermaine is correct and Mr. Dempsey is correct. The mandate for screening is not a mandate that this commission can make. It's within the planning board jurisdiction.
Right.
On the other hand, for us to do the screening that is necessary, we have to do it at a location within your jurisdiction. And that hasn't, the screening has not been proposed at this point for just two reasons. Number one, we wanted to walk the site with this board. We wanted to take a look, get your impact. Mr. Dempsey, you were the first one to take a walk out the road and say, you got to do something for these houses up here, and I don't see it on the plan. And I told you we intend to. I went up with this gentleman's permission and I talked to him. We'll submit a landscape plan and won't ask you to vote until you see one.
Thank you.
Well, what'll happen is planning will order what they want, and then they'll have to come back and get our approval to put it in the wetlands.
Right.
But we can't dictate 10-foot tree, 20-foot tree, 30-foot tree. All we can do is say, yes, you can, or no, you can't.
That's correct. That's correct, absolutely correct.
Right. But we can't say we don't like the plan, so therefore you can't until you come
Well,
back with a
I can
follow-up.
say that, whether it be right or wrong, I still have that
Thank
right
you,
to
state
say
of yours,
it.
thanks. Now,
It's mad now, 'cause I don't-
we will definitely be continuing this.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah. I think that naysaying that's been starting to appear here is kind of foolish. There are probably a lot of people here who 100 years ago would have been protesting about cars frightening horses off the road. So it's change comes to all of us. And if you wanted coal mines in Carver and the wonderful atmosphere that they bring and pollution, that would be another answer. We've been lucky to have a very good environment, and it's been
Thank you.
protected by the cranberry industry, but they're suffering due to poor planning in a lot of cases on their part. We're trying to help them survive and try and help our town survive as well as our environment. So that's what it is. Yeah. Question?
I mean, just the direct response to that statement is simple. We are changing. Technology changes. You said horse and buggy. They don't make buggies anymore.
They do too.
Yeah, okay, well, it's not a thriving business. I am looking at a piece of property that is substantially affected by this. This may not be the forum for it, because maybe I gotta go to a planning board and we have to sit to a different meeting. My concern, just to be brought up, is this is an active cranberry bog, but it's also flanked by an active residential area. How are we just gonna continuously do this?
This, sir, may I speak? Thank you. Our hands are tied to the conservation. We're responsible for anything within 200 feet of a riverfront or 100 feet of a BVW, border vegetated wetlands. Now, that's our responsibility. The only catch I get out of this whole thing, and the only thing I know that we can cover to help you out, is that one area where they don't have enough trees to protect you. That is the only thing that, at this point, that I see that we can do to help make sure that that's taken care of for you. Al will be looking at this, he'll try to find something.
I'm not necessarily
I have to be honest with you, sir, I'm not for these. I'm sorry, I'm not. But if the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, says that this is our new standard for this, then we are bound by our oath to follow the standards of the state and also the bylaws of the town of Carver. I repeat, the bylaws of the town of Carver, look it up, 65 feet. No touch zones.
You know which bylaw that is? 'Cause I
It's in the town, it's in the town.
It's the wetlands.
Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
I don't understand.
So, and that was what, this was, I believe, the first public hearing on this, am I correct?
On this one, yes.
On this particular project. A little disappointed that, A, Tim's not here. He's never once talked to anybody, at least not me, about what the scope of this project was, and so there is some frustration. And I would say, no offense to anybody else, but my house is probably the one most impacted by this project. I have environmental concerns about the solar beams going into ground. I don't know if it's, I'm not educated on solar panels, so I don't know, radiation, reflection, who knows what else is going on there. I don't know about any studies of groundwater effect by anything that does get damaged and doesn't get picked up and seeps into the ground, and I have a well. There's other houses that have wells. I have children. So just because they have the right to do it, and this is the first time, I think this is a great time to maybe look into what are the ill effects if this project goes wrong. Tim needs to make money. Tim needs to fix this for the cranberry box. But, in 10 years, when this economy flips again, we're looking directly. I'm not the guy that doesn't want the solar panels in the house. I'm the guy that's looking at the solar panels for somebody else to have their solar. So I am multiple, and that may be town meeting and different forums, but a little concerning, possibly frustrated, and then who's setting the guidelines to what the crop is supposed to be, who's monitoring it, he says, hey, we made money on this crop this year. Does that mean it actually went through? Where did these trucks go? There's a lot of things that they have that could easily be changed to make sure this works for everybody.
Sir, I understand your frustration, but a lot of these things that you're saying to us right now, it's not going on deaf ears, but it's going on ears that can't help you. The planning board is where you want to go if you're going to do this.
And that's why.
This is most important. It's most important that you just can't walk in there by yourself either. You got to walk in there with people.
No,
Okay, I'm just saying, don't, you know what I'm saying? You have to walk in force.
No, but this is why I brought the point up that this was the first hearing. We are not lawyers,
Your point's been taken, thanks. Let's see if there's some other people that have questions. Go ahead, ma'am.
I have a question. Donna Forand, 27-8 South Center.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but anybody who speaks, we have to have you sign in.
Really, we
You
need
two,
this
sir, in the
gentleman,
back.
we need this other
Two of
gentleman.
you
with
have
the
to sign in,
sweatshirt.
please.
I'll make sure it's signed.
Please.
Thank you.
We all know Donna. Everybody knows Donna.
So my concern, and I'll make it clear that my family was a cranberry grower in town for many years. We no longer harvest cranberries. We don't own any cranberry bogs. So this saddens me emotionally. I feel it in my heart, okay? My concern is he just brought to you plans for a system. Number one, does anybody know how wide the water picking machines are? And you can't just go from water picking to dry picking in the same season, okay?
We measured a water picking machine this morning, we were on site.
Okay,
And it's still not the purview of the Conservation Commission.
It isn't, but we did measure it.
But hold on one second. So he brought plans to you, and why did he bring the plans? My concern is, how many decommissioned facilities have they done? Have they never done a decommission? And if they have never done a decommission, how is it going to affect conservation? What plans does he have here to protect the waterway there when it's decommissioned? If we have no plans, how can we protect the
These are
bogs?
licensed engineers. The best thing, if you want to talk like that, the best thing to do, to be perfectly honest, is you got to go before the planning board.
No, he's bringing plans before you.
What lands in front of us on conservation, we take care of. Now, as far as the posts going into the ground and so forth and so on, we know how they go in, we've seen it done. These are professionals that are installing them, they've done them before all over the country, so.
But my question, I don't think you're hearing me correctly.
Okay.
If they have to decommission one of these facilities on a cranberry bog within 65 feet of a waterway or a protected way, where are the plans and the DEP plans that protect the waterway when they decommission it?
Mr. Chairman.
That's my question.
As Mr. Dempsey indicated, decommissioning plan and bonds are planning board requirements, not conservation commission.
That's exactly what I was saying.
We have filed a decommissioning plan, an estimate, and a proposed bond with the planning board to be spoken about at the planning board. If this commission would like a copy, I'm happy to get copies for Brooke, but I don't want you to think we ignored them.
No, I don't.
But my question is, in that plan, how is the waterway?
But that's a planning
Ms.
board
Fran.
thing, Donna.
We had a meeting here 4 years ago with people from the state departments.
Right,
You weren't here for it, though, probably.
No, but I can understand everything.
These questions were answered at that time. We could try and arrange another similar meeting because the awareness of solar is increasing again. That was in response to the first solar that people started to see, which was the paddock park by the grade school. However, all of these questions that you're asking have been answered in great detail over the last 10 years of activity, building solar arrays all through the country. And there has not been any negative circumstances resulting from them. There were questions raised about...
Just because there hasn't been a negative doesn't mean it can't happen in our town.
That's true. It doesn't mean that the world's not going to come to an end tomorrow either. We have to deal with the reality, which is the engineering.
All the people that are in here have a well over there, and that's water, and it needs to be protected.
They do not affect the wells at all.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
The DEP knows that.
DEP knows, DEP's done all the studies on that.
Give me that.
Are they galvanized posts going into
Be
the ground?
ashamed of yourself for even saying that, being chairman of this board.
If they're
You're not going to
galvanized,
finish the rest of this, ma'am? You're
they
leaving?
will contain zinc.
They're aluminized. They're aluminum, not galvanized, aluminum, okay?
Because anything going into the ground is going to affect all of the wells and the whole water supply for that whole area, not just Stafford Road, that whole area. And 10, 15 years from now, when everybody is sick because of the groundwater, so make sure they're aluminum.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
A number of these matters, as the chairman has recognized, have been on the table, if you will, for nearly a decade.
Yes.
I won't rely on industry studies because they're all self-serving. I would indicate to this commission, as it may be aware, that the Department of Energy Resources for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts about 3 years ago undertook a thorough study of the solar industry. They looked at issues of radio frequency. They looked at issues of electromagnetism. They looked at the makeup of the panels, the wires, and the racking system. They looked at possible glare impact. They looked at every issue that anyone had come up with as of that point. I can provide a copy of that study to the commission. I offer it not only in this state, but I do a number of projects in New York State. It's probably the most comprehensive study that's been done in the entire country. All of those questions were responded to in the negative. They're all legitimate questions, which is why the Commonwealth spent all that time, effort, and money to answer the questions. But quite candidly, I think the question has to be posed, what if 15 years from now someone became ill? When I hear a question posed 15 years from now, when people are sick from drinking that water, that's not a question. That's a political statement with no scientific background whatsoever.
But you would have to admit that we don't know what we don't know.
Well,
I think that's pretty.
I don't care how much study you do, asbestos was a wonderful thing. For how many years, we put it on the side of all the houses and wrapped all our boilers in it up until 25 years ago when it became, oh my God, how could we have done this? So we don't know what we don't know
I
yet.
understand that, sir, and before I did solar facilities, I did about 800 cell phone towers for AT&T. And if you go back 15 years, these are all the exact same questions people asked about cell towers. And everything came out the same, and now people want more cell towers so they get better cell service. And I'll tell you something, every cell tower you drive by, every cell tower that's been approved in this town or any other town, there's no such thing as a decommissioning plan and bond if they decide not to do those.
Well, we're not talking cell towers to begin with, but I just want to make one quick comment, and maybe it'll ease some of your frustrations. Now, everybody out here has a septic system. How close is that septic system to your well? Because those pipes that they're talking about 400 feet away, and we're talking a single pipe, as opposed to a septic system. So think about that.
What chemicals are inside of the solar panel?
No toxic chemicals.
There's no toxic chemicals at all.
So what's been done with all the solar panels in the past that,
If you do, through the chair, if you would, ma'am.
Yes. What has been done when solar panels are decommissioned? Very few of them actually have been, because they've turned out to be so long-lasting and so productive. However, there have been some cases where they've been taken out of commission, and they are recycled. They're taken to a
that's not
plant.
what I read. I read that.
Where'd you read it?
I did extensive research after we got this online for different companies, and there are stockpiles of these used old solar panels, and I'm sure they're different than what's used now, but they haven't been able to take them and do much with them because of the hazardous chemicals.
Please bring us traces of those documents, okay? So that we can look in on them, because I looked, when we had that, when we put the solar bylaw together, I was on the committee that formed it. And it was amazing to find the amount of research that had already been done on solar panels and finding how undangerous they were. But there's always that fear. Anything, when Columbus sailed across the ocean, he thought he was going to run into dragons over here. It didn't happen.
Solar panels lose, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a solar panel loses 1% of its capability per year.
Present.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, 1% per year. So in 50 years, it's half powered. So.
And usually they're figured.
I'm not going to be here then.
25 years they figured on retiring.
Yeah, our children.
Yeah, but you're not getting it. It's.
Mr. Chair, we had another question over here.
Yes, go ahead.
I actually have a couple of questions. The first, and I don't know, again, first, I think everyone wants to know when the zoning board meets, because it sounds like many of our questions.
Planning board.
Planning is typically a Tuesday night.
It's October 22nd.
It's October 22nd for this hearing?
Yep.
This month.
So that's when you should pack the hall, because they're the ones that that have all the purview.
Yeah.
We're restricted really hard.
Regarding the dual use, my concern is sort of bifold. If we're measuring crop production in order to continue it being utilized as a dual use, I really do think that you need to have a 2-year look back from the time that they started talking to Mr. Pink. Before he could potentially alter his crops, he's not doing much work on his bogs this year, that automatically is going to dump his numbers. So if we're looking at it as 2019 is the year that you're going to start looking at what he's doing, you're getting false data.
Well.
So just to be clear.
That's
and
an
then the
interesting
second
comment.
thing that I have
But the bog owners.
It's not us.
Quiet, guys.
is we're saying that this, so
Interesting.
these are personal property. These solar panels are considered personal property. If it's personal property, I don't understand how this is. Looking at the taxes that are paid on the bog are not the same. My family has a tree farm in Plymouth. We pay a very reduced rate of taxes on that tree farm. We have a crop that we grow. We don't have any dual use property and I'm not interested in having you come and visit it. It's very nice. I'm sure it has wonderful signage, but you're not coming. I'm just concerned because now there's a dog in the fight, money-wise, not only with you, but now with the landowners. But it's coming in, the money is coming in as personal property. It's not taxable.
Oh, yes,
at the
it is.
same- So it's
Yes,
gonna be
it's taxable.
considered, so that's completely taxable, it's the same rate that you or I would pay?
Actually,
on
personal
income?
property valuation is taxed at the commercial rate.
Yeah.
I'm on the finance committee also. So
So does he still get the discount on
the landowner he has nothing to do with it. The personal property tax is coming in from the owners of the solar panels. That's through an agreement that's made with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator over a period of 20 years. So there's a set amount of money that they're going to pay the town every year for 20 years.
What is the rate that this is taxed at?
The personal property tax in the town of Carver is $27 per thousand, whatever the commercial tax rate is. Which, by the way, for the record, that's the same rate that the Cranberry Bog owners are paying that's their commercial tax rate is commercially taxed. The value of the property is lower because we reduced the calculations because of the output when berries were in the toilet.
What does it generate in terms of tax dollars for the town?
As I said, we
And
have,
income for you specifically?
well, quite candidly, I'm not going to tell you what my income
I
is,
wouldn't
any
either.
more than you're going to
Sounds
tell
like
me
you're
yours.
successful at Towers. I can tell you right now, I work for the hospital.
What
I
I-
don't make much, I'm a nurse.
Well, it's,
Okay, we're getting off track.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I think we're way off track.
Mr. Chairman, I would indicate to you that I'm currently in negotiations with your town administrator, town manager, with regard to my Fuller Street project. He has pretty much a rule of thumb that he's looking for 16,000 per megawatt AC. This is a 2-megawatt project, so the annual check would be approximately $30,000 to $34,000.
And there may be some additional for the battery storage.
Correct.
The other thing I really want to say that I think you're missing a point. I'm sorry, I want to say something.
I do too.
Well, after I say, now, you were talking about the concern about how your children are going to live, so on and so forth. Well, one of the reasons for putting the solar panels in is to get solar energy for electricity because of the fact that we don't want to have to keep burning fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are going to poison the atmosphere.
Mr. Chairman, I can't anymore. You put your personal observations in this board. It doesn't belong in this board. It's a conservation commission. We're not here to talk about doing away with fossil fuels.
You're out of
You do this
order, Alan.
every single meeting.
You're out of order.
I would argue you are not.
It is a fact.
CMAS next door.
What's that?
We have CMAS in Rochester, right next door.
Yes.
We're not using fossil fuels for electricity. He worked there. He opened that plant.
Yes.
It is one of the cleanest energy producers in the state, and we live next door.
I would quibble with that also.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
Is
They-
$34,000
we're not, excuse me,
changing the
we're
landscape
here
of
to
our
discuss this
Yes.
We're
particular
off
plan, and that is it, please.
not.
We're getting way out of bounds here.
This is planning board, ma'am. It really is.
You gotta go to the planning board.
Yeah.
No,
Person in the back there, yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, have there been any studies about the long-term effect on cranberries with the dual-use process?
No, because we've only started at
Haven't been any.
that project over the paddock bog, as I call it, next to the elementary school is only about 5 years old now, roughly. And that was the first experiment in doing this in Massachusetts.
In general, I don't mean, I know you didn't state the town, but I meant
Anywhere, well,
Nobody's done them yet.
UMass at Amherst has been studying mixed use for land for a number of years. And they actually have some areas where they have stock grazing under solar arrays. And so they've done a lot of experimentation in this, and they are not finding any negative
how long,
respect.
do you know how long, how length in time that they've been observing the cranberry growth?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we don't know. if
What we
this
don't
is
know.
gonna work.
That's exactly right. It's what I said before. We don't know what we don't know.
I think that was possibly the best point of the
There hasn't been any cranberries yet because this is the first year The DEP only set up the guidelines a year ago. So have there been any studies on cranberries? No, but this will certainly be studied very hard. And one of the questions that was raised earlier is what happens if the berries don't grow? And I think the applicant made it very clear that they pulled the plug.
And then there was a statement made that possibly leave the structures in place.
But there is a bond to cover the complete removal of
I
that.
think there was a statement that that bond wouldn't cover the.
That was a guess.
And that is erroneous.
Bonds and
If the solar arrays are found to not be functioning, they will be removed.
Okay. I have another question.
Well, if the bogs aren't functioning, the solar array will be removed.
Right.
You had another question?
I do. Is there anything in the bylaws, and I did skim them, is there anything in the bylaws that would limit the amount of solar panels that are placed on cranberry bogs? Like, in a certain amount of time, or?
Say that again, I'm sorry?
That would limit the amount of solar panels built on bogs. No, not on our regulations. It would be the DOER that would set that. That's the Department of Energy Resources of the state. And they're the one that supervises the way this sort of thing is done, the dual-use facilities and so on.
This is 2 megawatt. Tremont Street is doing, I think it's a 10 megawatt.
I don't know.
And Rochester Road's at 8 megawatts, so.
No, 3.
Oh, I thought it was 8.
They cut it down.
Well, they did cut it back? Well, I know Tremont is 8 or 10, right? 10?
10.
That's up.
So it's 5 times this size on Tremont Street.
Is there,
And that's going to be dual use.
okay.
It's based really on the acreage that's there. If you look at the plan that these gentlemen have prepared for us, you'll see that there's a swath between the 2 arrays where a river runs through it, basically. Now, our purview is that 100 feet on either side of that river, they can't touch. So that's why they don't have any solar panels there. If that river wasn't there, they could conceivably cover the entire area with solar panels. But as far as we're concerned as the Conservation Commission, that 100 foot on either side of the river is what we're looking for.
May I just address one question? There was a couple concerns I heard from this side of the room anyway. One was how this project may affect drinking water. Am I right? Yeah, I thought so. So you were asking if the posts, as it were, for the framework of the solar systems going into the ground, if that was going to affect your well water. And the short answer to that is no, because think of the idea as straws going into the ground to a certain depth. Your well is going to be dug a lot deeper than the structure itself will be
in the ground.
So in terms of cross-contamination of that same
A
strata,
lot of those wells in that area are not deep. They're very shallow wells, and that's the problem.
10 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys are way up on the hill too, right? No?
No, we're right there, right on the cranberry bog.
That's still
Ours is up on
planning.
the hill, but my dad's is literally right there.
Yeah.
And Board of Health, that's right. That's Planning Board and Board
That's
of Health.
planning board, Board of Health.
Sorry,
It's all
in the
that.
back?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I know that everyone's talking about this really needs to go to the planning board, and totally hear that. You mentioned an acronym of someone who, a certain DEP or
DOER?
about regulations that guide what's within your parameters. Is there anything people in town can do to change how the bylaws work and look at this?
Absolutely, town meeting, put something
It's
together.
only town
If you
meeting
put
that
something
we can do
together, town meeting, the town can change anything it wants
Okay.
at the town meeting.
Just trying to think of other things that we have as resources for ourselves.
Well, we cannot take away from the state laws.
Right.
We can only add to them.
Make
So, in other-
Right, but what's in your purview today, as I heard you say, there's only certain things within our purview.
Right.
But we can add on to that as a town, what's acceptable here.
Well, for instance,
Because part of what I'm
the
hearing
bylaws.
is, like, the front of the meeting was, so I don't, the poor woman, I don't know whether she got the trees or not, but there's 5 trees, and you're talking about 41 acres. And it, for me, feels like we have all this energy into those couple of trees near the waterfront, and we're talking about people's entire neighborhoods.
but
And
this is what we do. This has to do with the wetlands. What happened there was a violation of the Wetlands Act.
Right. So
you know.
what can we do to make this type of thing in our town unacceptable?
That
At the
is,
town meeting?
I would, if I were you, if you want to do that, get an environmental lawyer and come up with an article that could be added to the town meeting and
Okay.
have it presented at the town meeting. That's the best thing for you to do, and you could still do it this year.
They could require, you could change the town bylaw to be a 500-foot setback from the wetlands.
Yeah, you could do that, you could change.
No, I'm just trying to
Honestly,
think
is
of
that gonna
different
happen?
See, we have-
It's
ways to
unacceptable.
balance the
Right.
atmosphere.
The town, we have a 65-foot no-touch from the BVW Board of Vegetated Wetlands, and that means you have to come to us to get a variance if you're ever thinking about doing something like that. You can add to that,
Okay,
okay?
through a vote at town meeting, so we can,
Right.
the town itself.
If you put it
Needs to be
together,
on the warrant.
Sorry?
Needs to be on the warrant.
it has to be on the warrant, so you have to have an article on the warrant. You have to put it together, organize it, and present it.
10 signatures.
And you gotta present it for the selectmen, am I correct?
10 signatures
I
gets
think,
it on the
yeah,
warrant.
that's
Yep,
what the
gotta
select.
present for the selectmen.
but you're not going to be able to circumvent state law.
That's right.
Right, no, I'm just trying to think outside, like, what I hear loud and clear.
If
is
it's
like, all these
wetlands,
arguments
you're right, if
we
it's
got-
wetlands and you decide you want a 500 foot, you can do what you want to do.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make one procedural comment.
Sure.
I think people who get notices about a proposed project in their neighborhood and come to a meeting like this for the very first time are somewhat surprised at the restraint that you people are under, the guidelines you're required to fulfill, as they probably will be when they get to the planning board meeting on October 22. But solar facilities in the town of Carver, or any other municipality in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do not come in under the cover of darkness. Let me finish, if I may, sir. What has happened in this town, as so many other towns, is there was a study group who took a look at the issue of solar facilities are coming or may be coming. And volunteers sat down, they went through a number of sample bylaws, took the good stuff, got rid of some of the bad stuff. They put together a draft solar bylaw to be incorporated in your zoning bylaw. That draft,
Who did you employ that was on that committee?
nobody,
You don't have anybody that, you don't pay anybody on that committee?
no.
That looked in the
Those
same-
were all
No,
town officials.
That was
that were on the-
all town.
Okay.
I was on that committee.
May I finish, Mr. Chairman?
Please finish, sir.
So was it Savory?
And what happens with that draft bylaw is it's submitted to the planning board. The planning board, in turn, puts legal notices in the newspaper and tells everyone, on such and such a date, we, as elected members of your planning board, are going to review the proposed solar bylaw. And come if you'd like to make public comment, ask for changes, etc. That took place in the town of Carver, as it does in every city and town. And I would be willing to guess that there is no one in this room that attended that planning board meeting and provided input. But that's not the end of it. After that public input, the planning board has to vote whether or not to recommend that to your town meeting. And in this case, your planning board recommended it to town meeting, and it went to the entire town at the town meeting
For this project? And it was,
for the solar bylaw. And it went to the town meeting, and the townspeople, not these people, and no paid employee of mine, the townspeople approved the local solar bylaw. That's number one. Number two, dual-use projects were prohibited in this state up until a little over a year ago. The state stepped in and told every city and town, if a facility goes by these guidelines, we're going to monitor it, you monitor it, the agricultural extension at UMass Amherst is going to moderate it. But the bottom line is, if they follow these guidelines, they're entitled to build this facility. I didn't just walk into Carver and say, gee, this is a great place to do whatever I want. I came to Carver, I studied the bylaw, your bylaw, not mine. I know your local wetland, I know the DEP guidelines, and we came in and proposed it as those are required. These folks have to look at the same rules and regulations I'm looking at. They can make me live by them, they can enforce different provisions and make sure that I live by them, but it has to be understood, these people who were out walking the site for 2 hours on their free time today to find out exactly everything about the site, they're not here for me, they're here for you, but they're also limited to the DEP guidelines and their Local Wetlands Protection Act of what they can do and how they can do it.
Corner?
Kelly McDonough, 97 High Street, and I think I'm on Ryan on the thing. Quick question to, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, the gentleman that is here from...
Joe Shannon.
Joe, I'm sorry.
Joe.
Do you have any completed properties within an hour's drive from here?
Sure, but no dual use,
No
but I
dual
do
use.
have the
Okay.
traditional ground-mounted solar
Okay.
facilities. And I'm happy to give you a list
Thank
of addresses.
I have a very good view right now. I'm probably going to lose most of it. I'm completely in support of solar. Sorry for those that upsets people. I am on High Street. It is my backyard. The bogs are my backyard. Not quite as nice a view as the Perrys have, but I have a very nice view. I'm gonna miss having it, but at the same time, I completely get where we're going.
With this gentleman's permission, I was on the Perry's property today. I was speaking to him. I told him when I get up the little slope.
I wish I had seen you. I was working from home. I went mountain walks
It's
today.
absolutely beautiful.
It's a beautiful property.
And quite candidly, I have a job to do. I have certain rules and regulations I have to fulfill. But the bottom line is, the best I can do for the Perrys is make the best of what is a bad situation. I can tell you, if I had walked up that slope, up to that balcony and looked up and said, we can't go forward, and I could convince the corporate headquarters, we shouldn't be doing this. The following day, Borrego or some other solar company would be right back here doing exactly what I'm doing.
And you'd
under
be
the same
fired.
rules and regulations.
And you'd be fired.
Mr. Chairman?
You need a new job.
Just
No, I don't really want to go back.
Wait, we have a commissioner. Go ahead.
real quick, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. And I know what everybody's fear is in this room, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're all looking at this, and it's the not knowing what you don't know, and it's the worrying about the property values. Am I wrong?
No.
So when you want to throw a for sale sign out in the front of your house 6 months from now, thinking that your house is worth $7 million, and you find out that it's worth $8.75, and you're going to blame it on a solar field. I live directly across the street from Edaville, directly. So when that beautiful hill came out and the railroad tracks went out and this place turned into a mini Six Flags, you think that my wife wasn't freaking out? We have a neighbor 2 houses over, they put their house in the market, took it back off, they couldn't sell it. Is it Edaville's fault? I don't think so. The house is pretty run down. So I don't know. I don't know. So we can blame it on whoever we want to blame it on. I know that some of your concerns in here tonight are driven by fear and by the not knowing, and I get that. Savory, Jim, myself, were on the solar bylaw committee in this town for 6 months.
At least, almost a year.
Along with members of the Board of Selectmen, members of the Planning Board, Town Administrator, the former Planning Director, Stephen Cole. We put together the distance requirements for dual use, because this was going to be the next thing, and everybody on that board had the exact same concerns all of you are voicing tonight.
There were also cranberry growers.
And there were cranberry growers on that board. So we're on board, but what we couldn't say no to this. If he presented this plan, and from what I can see, everything is out of the 65, it's pretty much out of the 100, it's out of the 200.
Not with the houses on.
Well, but there's not a whole lot we can do.
That's what I told him. There's nothing we can do about
Right,
it.
so I can't say I'm voting no because I don't like this. I think we have enough solar in town. That's the planning board. It's not the Conservation Commission. So I'm kind of on both of your sides. I see where it benefits the town, and I see where it needs to protect the residents. And for me personally, the residents come first.
And I'll tell you, one other thing you might want to consider is when you go before the planning board, is to remind them that they've already authorized 2 huge ones, and maybe they should sit on those to see if they worked before they added the new ones. Just throwing that up in the air.
Analyze this gentleman.
I'd respectfully suggest, Mr. Dempsey, that you may be pleasing these folks, but you're somewhat misleading them.
Well, we're not yet, because it hasn't been proven that it works.
But they really
Thank you.
Got two more questions. Yes, go ahead.
So real quick, just like Bob, I'm okay with solar. It doesn't bother me. I don't really care. What bothers me is pick a number. His house, just like you said, probably just tanked. I get it. I watched two ladies, one lady get excuse me, get talked to about a fence and her mulch, her mulch. And then a lady to cut trees. I get that part. There's gonna be a fence around this facility, right?
Only
Is
around-
this fence gonna be near these wetlands that surround that property?
I believe that the fence is only going to be around the equipment building and the battery storage. I do not think that there's going to be fencing.
No.
No fence.
That would
Bog
all,
ditches are considered wetlands? No?
I beg your pardon?
Yes, they are.
Are bog ditches considered?
Yeah.
The
Those bogs
The
are.
bogs itself are wetlands.
Yeah, those bogs are.
There's no setback for that fence.
the reason,
Already approved thing, right?
the reason the fence will not be around the whole solar array is this would prevent them from dual use.
I get that, and I know you keep talking about the paddock block.
This is
Paddock block
all
was never designed for dual use, correct?
Correct.
You keep talking about
It's in the
Well,
bog.
it was because it was the first experiment in putting panels on a bog, and it was not well thought out, but very frequently this happens. I mean, a lot of submarines sank and didn't come back to the surface. They weren't well thought out either.
This is not about something, it's about cranberries.
The paddock bog was an experiment for him to sell vines from underneath.
I get that.
He wasn't harvesting a crop any
I
longer.
understand.
So that's a little different.
Does this committee monitor Tim now to make sure he keeps picking those bogs? Because if you don't, after a certain amount of time, they go back to, we talked about this at the beginning, they go back to, he can't pick cranberries again.
We did a site walk on the paddock bogs last.
July, right? Was it July?
The ones that are behind the house.
Who monitors this is what he's asking. When this goes in, who's gonna go down next year and wanna know?
I think
what-
the question's been answered. It's
State.
the state.
does?
The state,
And we ask for it in our orders.
We
ask
can,
for
and we
copy.
can ask to do so in our orders of conditions. And University of Mass at Amherst, who is spearheading the experimental part of this, also monitors this.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I put that as a condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentleman from CMAS?
Go ahead.
My question is, you've got this as a dual-purpose bog where you have a harvest crop underneath it.
Yeah.
What do you use to clean your solar panels?
Water,
The rain.
just water. And we don't need to do much of that because Mother Nature is our custodian.
I believe the solar panels is a pretty, you have to keep those things pretty darn clean.
Well, we keep them clean, sir, because that is where our production comes from, and we don't like the production cut.
Now, the second question is, what are the voltage that comes out of those panels?
Collectively, it will be 2 megawatt.
Not voltage.
I honestly couldn't tell you what the voltage out of that project.
Voltage
I can
on
get,
that project, is that going to have to get stepped up to line voltage to be able to be transmitted?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, what's the voltage coming off to the batteries?
Don't know what.
I can bring you a copy of our interconnection approval by Eversource, sir. It's been studied, it's been approved, and we have permission to tie into the three-phase.
Okay, so
I'm not sure any of this is Conservation Commission subject matter, but
are you going to use to step up your power?
We have nothing to do with that, sir.
If
That's
that
all.
transformer blows oil and blows up on those bogs, that is your conservation.
I understand that, and that we were talking about those earlier. That's just part of the test we're working on.
As part of what?
You know, the testing area, and this is the first year this has come out. We haven't had any issues yet.
Right.
Because it hasn't been
You
any.
did Love Canal.
Transformers on every telephone.
Sir, the engines in the trucks that carry the berries off the bogs can blow too, putting oil all over the cranberries. So,
Correct.
anything could happen.
Some type of stormwater prevention plan with that.
Yes.
oil?
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, that's planning board?
Oh, stormwater, we do have stormwater.
Well,
Stormwater, we have it over here.
Okay.
One more
wrap it up.
question,
Wrap
Mr.
it up.
Chairman.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's call it a day.
Yeah.
The lady down the back.
This is getting off.
Okay, yes, go ahead. Okay, couldn't see it first.
Last question.
I know that we talked a lot about the bylaws, the wetland bylaws, and also the state law that allows a dual purpose. I was wondering if there's ever been, did you look into whether or not the bylaws satisfied that law? Because the bylaws came up before the law was passed. Did you ever go back and make sure that the bylaws
Yes.
were compliant?
Yes, the bylaws were reviewed in respect to the dual use, and they're found to be compatible.
Oh, yeah, town council went over all of our bylaws before they went to town meeting. So everything that we proposed to bring to town meeting for any of the bylaw changes, all were vetted through council.
That was after the state law was passed.
That was correct. This was last April. This was all voted in last April.
And with all due respect, Mr. Jermaine, they were also reviewed and approved by the Attorney General after that.
That's correct.
And if you all remember, if you went to the town meeting, you'll find that the Conservation Commission presented a whole bunch of stuff, and it all got shut down.
That's because they didn't like Savory.
That's right.
They were improvements in our bylaws, which Savory had spent a lot of time working on, and unfortunately, the crowd was not very patient, wanted to go home. Maybe this year we'll try and submit them again and see if they get passed. Every town meeting is an attempt to improve. It's kind of like you have kids in your family, and you take them to visit neighbors, and all of a sudden you find that one of them is punching the neighbor's kids in the nose. So that's something you have to work on. So we have to change things as we see where they go wrong. And that's what we do.
Well, that's where all laws come from.
I didn't get that.
Yep.
So, yes.
I mean, just so we can end this too, we appreciate you guys and you guys. We know this is the wrong forum at this point for a lot of these conversations, but we do have at least more information to deal with, I think.
We get to do this every other.
I did try to put that on Facebook, by the way. I think I saw the post. Somebody had posted a notice that they had gotten.
Yeah.
Was it anyone in this room? They posted a notice, and I responded to it.
As clear as possible, because we all live on Cranberry Bog.
Yep,
We live in Carver, this is what it's gonna turn into, Solar City, forget Bog City.
Well, I tried to respond that a lot of your concerns that you had posted were planning board stuff.
Yep.
So now you get to see first.
If you all live on Cranberry Bogs, put something together. You got to do it. Or it's going to be Solar City.
Yeah, and that's sad, because I guarantee everyone that lives here moved to Carver because it's beautiful. Look at the emblem up on the board, there's cranberries for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Look down in the lobby, you've got a cranberry sorting machine. You might as well take that out and put a solar panel in there.
Oh, yeah, that's next year.
Stop ruining.
Well, the gentleman who contributed the sorting machine has a large solar array on one of his bogs now.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a cranberry question, and it might be a cranberry representative here. Has it been proven that cranberries can grow with with only shade?
No, they can't.
They can't.
Limited sunlight is the question.
How is it limited sunlight?
They've done a shading analysis.
These,
The sun moves, the shadows move, that's what they're working on.
For how many hours?
the guidelines state that, per the DEP, that the solar panels cannot cover more than 50% of the ground over which they are. So those are the guidelines that were developed by University of Massachusetts at Amherst based on their studies.
Who's going to measure that once the panels are in?
The panels, it's
It's a
math.
shading
It's
analysis.
simple math. The size of the acreage and the acres of the acreage of the panels themselves. If it's 23 acres of bogs and 11 acres of panels, that's 47%. So that means 53% of the light is getting to the ground. And that's what the state requires.
And on the second question, I know currently Tim has a helicopter come in and do fertilization or bug.
Yeah.
Not sure what it is.
Did you notice that?
That should be
Oh,
fine.
yeah, he did it about 2 weeks ago.
I was gonna say, he did do it about 2 weeks ago, I was working from home when it happened. It was very hard work.
They don't do it with you think they always did it with a helicopter? They do it on the ground. Yeah.
Okay, and what is it that you're coming about? He has the helicopter.
This is just curiosity, how is he going to do that in the future in order to ensure that he has a sufficient crop to cover this
If he has to adapt, he will. He's going to have to adapt the way he picks the berries as well. The alternative could be that he just lets the bogs go. And he leaves town, and all of a sudden, you've got pine trees. All your beautiful bogs are gone. They turn back to nature. This is to help the grower continue to have bogs and to continue to earn his living.
If they don't turn into fields full of pine trees, they will turn into fields full of houses, and we'll have to build 2 more elementary schools.
Actually, okay,
let's wrap it up.
Are we done?
let's wrap this up.
All right, so we need a
We're
motion.
continuing this.
Seasons change, and with the sun, those shadows are gonna grow and shrink, grow and shrink.
They're calculated, man.
They did the shading analysis.
All right, let's call this a date.
Before,
We're not done, we have another hearing here.
I know that.
No.
I know that. Before, there's one thing that I would like to just say. I looked through the plans pretty carefully. You have on your specifications, your last page, you have an end view of the panels that show the spacing between each row. There's nothing that shows a front-on view that shows the spacing between the posts. And I think you're going to have questions at the planning board about how they're going to harvest. So I think that it's probably a good idea to have that elevation as well.
Okay.
So that you can make a point as to how easy it will be for the machines to get under.
That's a good point.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
So we're going to continue this,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I make a motion, we continue the hearing for 5 James Beach Way, NOI DEP SE 126-590 until...
Well, the planning board hearing's not till the 22nd. Our next hearing's the 16th.
November 6th
November 6th?
to November 6th.
Wait a minute, November 6th.
I'll second that.
Yeah, okay. That'll work.
You all right with that?
Yep.
The dog okay with that?
Moving second to continue.
Dog's good.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I asked
We're
them.
going to vote on it or what?
Yes. Moved and seconded to continue. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
On the 6th. Thank you, everybody.
Take a 5-minute break, please.
And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, hello?
I'm sorry, what do you need?
Real quick, anytime we do anything with the bylaws, anything with these are all public meetings, they're all posted on the Carver Town website. They're all on the calendar. Every one of you are on the internet. Click on the Town of Carver, go to the Carver events, what's happening, calendar, and it shows the whole month. You see something listed down, click on the date, it'll open up and tell you exactly what's going on. So when there is a hearing, when there is a bylaw committee, when there is proposals and stuff, it's every bit of it is advertised. There's nothing worse than finding out after the fact, oh, I wish I had known. And we discussed this, we're gonna end up putting more information out on social media, just so that people are more aware of what's going on, usually with Carver helping Carver or everything Carver. Just
And
so that,
remember,
you know,
the one other thing you have to remember is, when you go to the planning board, remind them that they got 2 huge ones already going in. It's very important.
Tremont Street and Rochester Road.
They're
And there was
huge.
a third.
Now, listen, you remind them, you say to them, we don't know how they're gonna work out,
Going on the ditches.
Do they
right?
have butters? Rochester Road has a
Yes.
Yes,
Across from the car.
yes, they do have a butters.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Or make pieces, no.
And then you got the other one.
That's in that's out in the middle of it.
Some of that's on upland. All right, come on, Jim, let's
That they're not concerned about our next.
Oh, of course not. It's not their
Listen, I'm gonna call this. It's like Savory in Samson's Pond. There's no disrespect. We're gonna rename it Savory's Pond, don't worry.
Actually, the cove I'm in is Sabri's Cove.
We already have an avenue in here.
I'm just saying this is what you can do. If you're that serious about it.
I just ignore it.
Does Jim know we're not done?
Nobody else is going to be signing in, right?
Good God, help us if there are. All right, Jim, let's go. Yeah, really, we don't need to be
All
arguing.
right, let's get the next one in.
Read your minutes.
It's continued, it's continued. All we have to do is minutes and adjourn.
9 Ward Street's continuing again?
Wrap it up. Read your minutes.
Is it 5 minutes?
It is.
It is.
7.5.
Come on,
We're at 2.5
we
minutes.
can do minutes and adjourn. We can go home. I got a wife. No more kids, but I got a wife.
I got kids right here.
Huh?
19C Ward Street has been continued.
Pass
Is that correct?
It is.
Brooke?
What's that?
19C Ward Street's been continued.
They asked for continuance.
So that's going out till November 6th or the next meeting?
It's going till October 16th, as far as I know. I told them the 16th, so they needed more time on that.
Nationals and
No.
Milwaukee Brewers.
I'm so upset with the Red Sox, I'm not watching anything.
I'm saying something.
I'm still, really? And they blew it.
They bottomed the 8th inning,
Okay.
3 runs and lost 4-3.
Get out of here.
There we go. Okay.
Too
next
late,
hearing.
I don't even remember. Never mind.
No, we have to do the minutes, and then we can adjourn.
I want that in.
We didn't read
I'm
the
gonna.
Look at, Dallas even tired, he's sleeping. My dog fell asleep because
Is
of
Ward
this.
Street continued?
Yeah.
Oh, Wood Street asked for continuance, yes, they're still looking at that other bog.
We have to move to continue them, that's all. Okay, motion to continue Ward Street?
Yep, they asked for continuance.
All right, I make a motion, we continue 19C Ward Street, NOI DEP SE 126-589 to October 16th.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to move DEP SE 126-589 to October 16th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Pass unanimous.
Minutes.
Red.
I've read mine, so,
That's because I get it in an email.
yeah, I get it too. So I make a
Oh,
motion,
do you
we
read 'em when
accept
you
the
get 'em?
minutes as written for
Well, just like some of us
September
can't make the
18th.
walks, some of us can't read them. I'm reading them now.
You didn't read them? Off the website?
They send them to you. Doesn't she? Yeah, Deb sends them to you.
Yeah, it's an email from Deb Deneen.
Yeah, it's an email from her, yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, wrong one.
Deb's one in permitting.
I print
She
them.
does the agendas and stuff.
Did you already read them too?
Oh boy, that was a good one.
It's all right, there's only 6 minutes, don't worry.
Valerie, you want to go home?
Those neighbor things is their policy.
Oh, God.
Well, the steroids are working.
Okay, suggestion that we approve the minutes as written?
I'll second that.
Woman said exactly what I said.
I made the motion to approve the minutes as written September 18th, 2019.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as written. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed.
Motion to adjourn?
It's a second.
Hey,
Third.
Dan,
I'd like to have a
your kids are never
Okay,
going to
been
want to be on
moved,
the, after seeing tonight.
been moved to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously.
Shut it off.
We're done.
Edit.